Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling something really fascinating. We're looking at how deep, timeless truth gets passed down through history.
Right. Even when cultures and societies are constantly changing around it.
Exactly. And we're using a specific framework for this. It's drawn from a text called The Living Truth, a hiero-historical cosmology of divine disclosure.
Yeah, it's quite a title.
It is. But basically, it's looking at how eternal wisdom is, well, revealed and understood differently across time, like a cosmology of divine disclosure.
That's a good way to put it. The source really presents this interesting model. It tries to explain how a truth can be fundamentally unchanging in its core, but still be revealed and adapted in ways that actually make sense to people in, say, the 10th century versus today. It's not about the truth itself evolving.
It's about our access evolving. Is that the idea?
Precisely. How we understand it, how it's presented.
Okay, so our mission today is really to unpack this model. We want to get into its core ideas and see how it suggests this ancient wisdom is still alive and kicking, still relevant for us.
Yeah, and maybe even accessible.
Right. And I love this intriguing angle it takes that maybe progress isn't always about finding new truths, but maybe it's about, getting broader access to something that's always been there, already complete.
That's a key point in the text, definitely.
Okay, let's dive in then. The model starts with this fundamental principle, the eternal truth. What exactly is that, and what does it mean it's always present in the imam of the time? That sounds quite specific.
It is specific. The eternal truth here isn't like a list of rules or dogmas. It's described as this singular, unchanging reality behind everything, metaphysical.
Okay.
It transcends time, culture, language, all the forms we try to pin it down with. Think of it as the underlying divine order, the ultimate purpose. It's what, authentic spiritual paths are aiming at, each in their own language.
So not doctrines, but the source reality itself.
Exactly. And its essence, the text stresses, is unchanging. It doesn't grow or evolve. It's already whole.
But you said things do change.
Right. What changes is the expression, the forms, the metaphors, the symbols used to understand and communicate it. These have to shift based on a society's readiness, spiritually, intellectually.
Got it.
And it's described as both hidden and revealed. Ultimately, the goal isn't just intellectual belief, but direct spiritual experience, tasting it, not just reading the recipe.
Okay, so if the truth itself is constant, what does shift across history? How does this unchanging thing get transmitted, kept alive for new people?
Well, what shifts is the degree of unveiling, how clearly it's expressed, and how many people in a community can access it.
Yeah.
And this is where the living guide comes in. The text calls this figure the imam of the time.
The imam of the time.
Yes. This guide is presented as the embodiment, the protector, and the sole authorized transmitter of that eternal truth for their age.
So like a living link.
A living link in an unbroken chain through history. This guide's role is crucial. They calibrate the disclosure. They tailor it to the needs, the capacity, the conditions of each specific era and community.
Wow. So they decide what gets revealed and how.
Essentially, yes. The imam, or living guide, has the sole authority, according to the source, to veil truth when necessary, or unveil it more clearly, or reinterpret it based on readiness. And they're not alone. They have deputies. The text mentions peers, ojets, das, who deliver these teachings at different levels. Some more outward esoteric teachings for the community.
Right, practical stuff maybe.
And some more inner esoteric teachings for those ready for deeper understanding. The key takeaway is that access to truth isn't just reading an old book. It's presented as living, personal, adaptive, mediated through a contemporary authority.
No, I can imagine someone hearing that this single figure having sole authority to veil or unveil truth and thinking, hang on, that sounds like a huge amount of power, maybe even arbitrary control. Could you elaborate a bit on the reasoning behind that in the source? Is it just gatekeeping?
That's a fair question. The source really frames it differently, though. It's not presented as arbitrary control at all. It's emphasized as being guided by divine wisdom and, crucially, compassion.
Compassion. How so?
Well, the veiling and unveiling are described as acts of careful teaching, pedagogy, and also protection.
Protection from what?
From misunderstanding, from misuse, from truths being revealed before people are ready to handle them responsibly or integrate them properly. Think of it like a really wise teacher.
Okay.
They wouldn't just dump, advanced calculus on a first grader. They reveal knowledge step by step in a way the student can actually absorb and grow from. So the idea is it's about fostering genuine spiritual development for the community, not about suppressing information for its own sake.
That framing helps. It's about readiness and responsible transmission.
Exactly. It's presented as a necessary function for guiding humanity's spiritual journey effectively across different stages.
Okay, that makes more sense. This dynamic between the timeless truth and its timely unveiling. It really is fascinating. So what does this imply for us? If someone today wants to access let's say, the fullest version of this truth?
Well, the implication laid out in the text is pretty direct. It suggests that a connection to the imam of the time, or at least to a living chain of transmission that originates with them, is necessary.
Necessary for what exactly?
For accessing the fullest, most current, and most properly contextualized expression of that truth. Because the imam is the one determining what needs to be unveiled now, how it should be expressed, and who is ready for which layers.
So it's an active, ongoing process. The most relevant understanding isn't just buried in the past.
That's the core idea. It has to be contemporary to be fully relevant, according to this model. The past informs, but the present interpretation and unveiling is key.
Okay, the model also says truth isn't revealed in, like, a vacuum. It's always grounded. So how does context actually shape the unveiling of this eternal truth?
Right, this is a major piece. The source calls it contextual revelation. The idea is that the eternal truth, even though its essence is beyond form, always gets disclosed within the limits and possibilities of a specific time, place, language, culture.
So it has to speak our language, basically.
Exactly. The living guide's role is to ensure the truth is clothed, as it were, in forms that are understandable and meaningful to the people receiving it. Otherwise, it would just be noise or irrelevant.
Makes sense.
And this involves a few things. There's what the text calls historical calibration. Teachings need to resonate with the intellectual and social climate of the time.
So meeting people where they are.
Yes. Then there's cultural adaptation. The same core truths might look very different on the surface, appearing as different myths, rituals, even philosophical arguments across different cultures or eras.
But the essence is the same underneath.
That's the claim. And finally, there's progressive unveiling. As human capacity grows, maybe intellectually, spiritually, socially, more can be revealed more openly.
So something hidden in myth earlier might become philosophy later.
Precisely. Or even open teaching. Local stories, familiar customs, they become the vehicles for these universal truths. But the vehicles themselves aren't the absolute truth.
Okay, if truth keeps getting adapted to context, does that mean the older forms just fade away, become irrelevant? How does the tradition keep its vitality going over centuries?
Not irrelevant, no. But they might need recontextualizing. This is where the idea of cycles of veiling, unveiling, and renewal comes in.
Cycles.
Yeah. The model suggests history isn't just a straight line of progress. It sees cycles where truth is revealed openly. But then, maybe over generations, teachings can become rigid, just rituals, or misunderstood. Or societal changes make the old forms less clear. Veiling or obscuration happens.
Right, like the meaning gets lost.
Exactly. And when that happens, the living guide needs to step in to renew the message, reinterpret it, recontextualize it for the new situation, unveil it again, perhaps in a new way, to keep it alive and vibrant.
So there's an initial unveiling.
Right. Then maybe veiling or obscuration.
And then renewal.
Correct. The imam clarifies, expands, maybe brings out deeper layers using new language or practices suited to the time. And crucially, even when things seem veiled or hidden, the imam's presence, or their representatives, ensures that core continuity. Sometimes it might be maintained more privately, perhaps in initiatory circles, until the time is right for a broader renewal.
This brings up something important, especially thinking about today, with global information seemingly everywhere. If revelation is tailored to what people can understand, does that mean some truths are deliberately kept for most people? Doesn't that risk sounding a bit, well, elitist?
It's a crucial point to address. The source frames it less as elitism and more about responsible pedagogy and protection.
Okay.
It talks about contextual limits, time, culture, and capacity. The idea is that revelation has to be calibrated to what people can genuinely absorb, understand, and practice effectively and safely.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Maybe earlier societies received core truths primarily through myth or ritual or strong legal codes because that was the most effective way to structure society and convey meaning then.
Right.
Later societies, perhaps with widespread literacy or different intellectual tools, might be ready to receive those same core truths expressed as complex philosophy or mystical doctrines. The form changes with capacity.
So the limits aren't arbitrary, they're tied to our collective development.
That's the argument. The sophistication of the revelation is linked to the community's readiness, maybe technologically, ethically, even socially. As society evolves and its capacity grows, the imam might allow more open, more universal access to insights that were previously restricted or veiled.
So the big implication then is?
The implication is that no single historical form of revelation is the final word for all time. Every teaching needs to be understood in its original context and potentially reinterpreted as conditions change. Greater unveiling isn't automatic. It's linked to our collective human readiness.
That's quite profound. It suggests a kind of dynamic relationship with truth over time.
Okay, so if truth is constantly being adapted and revealed in these different forms,
Yeah.
how do people distinguish between, say, the practical outward guidance and the deeper inner meaning?
That's where the esoteric and exoteric dialectic comes into play. The source explains that every genuine expression of truth has these two aspects.
Two aspects.
Yes. The exoteric, or aher in the terminology used, which is the outward, public, maybe ritual or legal form. It's accessible to the whole community.
Okay, the surface level.
Right. And then there's the esoteric, the bain, which is the inner hidden spiritual meaning. The deeper reality that the outward form points towards.
And the living guy's role.
Is to mediate this relationship, to guide individuals, according to their readiness, from just following the outward rules, which is important for community cohesion, towards actually realizing the inner transformative understanding.
So it's like a journey inward. Exactly. The exoteric provides the structure, the shared language, the rules of the road for the community. But the esoteric is about the experience of the destination, the direct taste of that divine reality.
And access isn't the same for everyone?
No, it's graduated.
Yeah.
Based on spiritual readiness, effort, sincerity. The outward forms are necessary vehicles, but they ultimately serve these deeper inner realities. And the imam is presented as the sole authority who can truly unlock or interpret those deeper layers correctly for the time.
That makes a lot of sense. Like you said, different doors into the same house, some leading deeper depending on your preparation. What about the specific ways these truths get communicated? The source mentions symbolic systems.
Yes, absolutely key. Symbolic systems and the veiling of truth. This model emphasizes that the eternal truth isn't usually spelled out like a textbook. It's preserved, transmitted, and made accessible through rich, multi-layered symbolic systems.
Like what kind of systems?
Think of things like myth, ritual, sacred poetry, even architecture, sacred languages, specific communal practices. These aren't just decorations. They function as complex containers for meaning.
Containers and veils, you said earlier?
Exactly. They hold the truth, but they also veil it.
How does that work?
Well, they often have layered meanings. There might be an exoteric meaning understood by everyone, providing moral guidance or communal identity. Then an esoteric meaning for those initiated or seeking deeper understanding, and perhaps even higher levels for the most advanced. This layering protects the deeper knowledge.
Protects it from what? Misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding, misuse, profanation, especially during difficult times. Symbols act like a code. They also have an initiatory function. The deeper meanings aren't just given away. They're typically disclosed progressively as someone shows sincerity and spiritual readiness.
So you have to engage with them seriously.
Right. And critically, these symbolic systems are culturally adaptable. The same eternal truth can be encoded in different local forms, allowing it to thrive across diverse cultures and long historical periods. It's like translating a universal message into many languages without losing the core meaning.
Okay, so this model describes this unchanging truth being unveiled dynamically. But, when we look out at the world, we see so many different spiritual paths, religious traditions, often seeming to compete or contradict each other. How does this framework account for that reality?
That's addressed directly in the source material, under the idea of competing traditions and mirror expression.
Mirror expressions.
Yes. The model suggests that whenever the eternal truth is authentically expressed through the living guide, it almost inevitably gives rise to other traditions around it. These might be rivals or parallel developments or traditions that try to mirror some aspect.
And not necessarily false, but different.
They might share some terms, symbols, maybe even rituals, but the source suggests they often differ significantly in their connection to the ultimate spiritual authority, their metaphysical focus, or the degree of unveiling they represent. They could be partial reflections, maybe distorted over time, or focused on only one aspect of the bigger picture.
So the existence of competing views doesn't undermine the core idea.
Actually, the Force frames it as a sign of spiritual dynamism. When something powerful and true emerges, it naturally creates ripples, responses, even resistance or alternative interpretations. The key isn't just surface similarity. The criteria for discernment proposed are proximity to the living guide and the clarity of the current unveiling authorized by them.
That's interesting. Okay, so if all genuine traditions are, in some way, expressions of the same underlying reality, and the truth itself isn't actually increasing, then what does progress even mean in this model? It seems to flip our usual idea of progress on its head.
It absolutely does. This is a really central insight. Progressive unveiling, access, not increase, of truth.
Say more about that.
Okay, so progression in this tradition isn't about humanity discovering new truths or adding pieces to some incomplete puzzle. The eternal truth, as held by the Imam, is always considered whole and complete.
So what is progress, then?
Progress is understood as the expansion of access to that truth. It's about increasing clarity, making it understandable to more people, broadening communal participation in it.
Yeah, so it's about the unveiling becoming more widespread or deeper.
Exactly. It's about the universality of the eternal truth becoming more manifest, more accessible, according to the readiness, spiritual, intellectual, social of humanity in a given age or context. The Imam orchestrates this gradual unveiling.
So the core truth is like a masterpiece, always complete.
Right.
And progress isn't adding paint, but maybe cleaning off the dust so more people can see its brilliance more clearly.
That's a great analogy, yes. Practices or teachings that might be completely public and widely taught today could have been deeply esoteric, maybe initiatic or secret in past eras.
Why the change?
Because humanity's capacity changed. The most current expression, the one authorized by the Imam for this time, is considered authoritative now. Not because it's new and improved in essence, but because it's the most suited, the most appropriately unveiled, and the most universally accessible version for the community's needs right now.
So every era has access to the core, but the form and the reach might change.
Precisely. The highest or most relevant tradition, in this view, is always the contemporary one guided by the living authority, because that's where the clearest, most applicable unveiling is happening for seekers today.
Wow. What's really striking here is, well, it encourages a certain humility, doesn't it? About our own time's understanding. We might think we're at the pinnacle, but maybe we're just seeing a facet that's right for us.
It does suggest that, yes, while also providing this coherent structure for how spiritual insight does evolve in its expression and accessibility over time.
So wrapping this up a bit, what does all this mean for someone today who's trying to understand these deeper truths, navigating all the information out there?
I think the main takeaway is that this living truth transmission model offers a really coherent framework. It helps make sense of how a timeless truth can stay relevant, how it can adapt and renew itself across vastly different ages without losing its core essence.
And the living guide, the Imam, is central to that whole process.
Absolutely. They are presented as the orchestrator of this constant dynamic adaptation and unveiling.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What if the most profound truths aren't things we discover, like finding a new continent, but rather things that get uncovered?
Are represented.
Represented in ways that we collectively are finally ready to receive or understand. It shifts how you might approach seeking knowledge.
It certainly does. It emphasizes receptivity and readiness.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to consider. If genuine traditions are seen as these diverse expressions, these different clothings of the same underlying reality, what new insights could you gain? By looking for that universal essence hidden within the particular forms, the myths, the rituals, the philosophies you encounter. Knowing that maybe understanding isn't just about acquiring facts, but about a process of gradual unveiling, something to definitely mull over.
A very different way to look at the landscape of wisdom traditions.